Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Huntington's virtual Sunday service. My name is Jim Monier. We are streaming live today from multiple locations, so please be patient with us for any technical delays or mishaps that you might see or hear. We'd like to extend a special welcome today to visitors who may be joining our virtual service for the first time, as well as any newcomers who are returning. And we especially welcome our friends from the Unitarian Church of Staten Island joining us today, especially Reverend Emily Deter-Burt. And we welcome the Unitarian Church of Staten Island, which was founded in 1852 by transcendentalists and abolitionists. They, like us, are looking to bringing their history into their future as they investigate the eighth principle of beloved community and work for more racial justice. So we're excited that you are joining us this morning, and we are very happy to have you here. If you're new to our congregation and want to speak with someone to learn more about us, please contact our office administrator, Lauren Knoll, at office@uufh.org. If you have a pastoral matter, you can contact our minister, Jude Geiger, at minister@uufh.org. Know that whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your life's journey, you're welcome here. Today is the first Sunday in Advent on the Christian calendar, and tomorrow is also Guru Nanak's birthday, a Sikh holiday widely celebrated throughout the world, including Long Island. Sikhs celebrate the birthday of Guru Nanak by focusing on his message that all are equal before God and should live peacefully with one another. This holiday is one of the most significant festivals of the Sikh community. This morning is the third in a series of 11 Sunday services led by guest speakers over the next 6 months that will explore the elements of the proposed eighth principle of Unitarian Universalism. The Black Lives of UU Organizing Collective has urged all UU congregations to consider and adopt this eighth principle, which reads as follows. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote, journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. We will be exploring these elements of this proposed principle throughout this worship year on Sunday services, in small group workshops, and in reading groups in order to better understand what it means so that we can vote on it as a congregation in 2021. Our guest preacher today is Christina Rivera, who will now be introduced by our minister, the Reverend Jude Geiger, followed by a few more brief announcements. Jude?
Thanks, Jim. Christina Rivera is a religious educator and administrator serving Unitarian Universalism as part of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship. It's our largest congregation with, I believe, over 3,000 members. She was the first Latina and religious educator elected to the UUA Board of Trustees, serving as trustee, financial secretary, and secretary of the association. In 2017, Chris co-founded the UU White Supremacy Teach-In with Aisha Hauser and Kenny Wiley. And in 2018, she founded Call to Justice, a faith-based consulting group focused on impactful leadership and congregational development for Unitarian Universalists committed to justice ministries. Call to Justice mission is to develop lasting relationships with organizations and support them as they move deeper into understanding how white supremacy impacts all aspects of an organization. In 2020, Christina was selected as the Unitarian Universalist Association's Angus MacLean Award recipient for education for excellence in religious education. And for folks that are not familiar with it, it is the highest honor we offer as a denomination, particularly in religious education. Chris has the faith and support of her husband and twin sons who, along with her ancestors, formed the foundation of her calling to Unitarian Universalist ministry. And I'll add that I have a pleasure to work with her on the board of LREDA, the Liberal Religious Educators Association. So glad to have you here with us, Christina. Welcome.
Star Child is back. For many years, our fellowship has generously supported the Family Service League at this time of year by providing toys for deserving children. This year, the request for toys and gifts is greater than ever, and your help is needed to provide for the thousands of Long Island families facing hardship this year. We can donate new unwrapped toys and gifts for children ages infant through teen by December 11th. Now, in this pandemic times, without live Sunday services, we have some other ways we're going to do it this year. You may drop off an unwrapped toy or gift at the fellowship on the front porch at the office entrance. We'll pick up the packages at least once a day and then hold them to be delivered to Family Service League. You can also order directly online at Amazon, where Family Service League has a dedicated page, kind of like a bridal registry, and a wish list that you can choose from. When you order the item, it gets shipped directly to Family Service League. The Amazon link is in the fellowship flash, as is all of this information, so you don't have to memorize it. And you can go to fsl-li.org and find their link under their events tab and project toy. And if you prefer, if you have some gifts or toys but you can't get out yourself, call the office or email Lauren in the office, and someone can pick up the toy or gift at your house. Please join us at 11:30 for our virtual fellowship hour. The Zoom link will be posted in the chat box throughout and at the end of our service in the chat area. It's also posted on our Facebook page, on our website, and in the flash. Christina will be joining us for the beginning of the hour to virtually meet you and take part in conversation and an exchange of ideas. Remember, this fellowship hour starts at 11:30, so take some time in between the service, have a cup of coffee, stretch your legs, and then come back on the new, different Zoom link to join. And as I said, that link will be posted in the chat box. And then finally, on a technical note, this will be the last Sunday that we're going to be using this particular webinar format. Not to get too technical, we're going to be switching to a meeting format next Sunday thereafter. That's going to allow us to more smoothly move into the fellowship hour without having to find a new link, and also gives us, more importantly, the chance to see each other's bright, smiling faces on Sunday morning. So if you don't want us to see that, always remember to mute your video, not just your audio if you don't want to be seen. But we'd love the opportunity to see everybody and have some interaction on Sunday mornings. So I now invite you to settle into your bodies, quiet your minds as we breathe deep together, and settle into our time of worship. Please join me in saying our mission statement. The words are on your screen. In religious community, we nurture our individual spirits through caring for one another and helping to heal the world. And please join me in singing our affirmation, accompanied by Jay on piano.
We light this chalice in the love of our faith, that we each bring pain and joy together today, and know that in the light and the shadows, we find community. Much gratitude to the Sorcerer family for lighting our chalice today.
Thank you so much, Sorcerer family. Good to see your faces. Our new tradition over the last few years of following the Advent cycle of waiting for the manger scene on Christmas Eve. Our first Advent candle is Honor of Hope. The reading is by Jan Richardson, called Blessing for Waiting. Who wait for the night to end, bless them. Who wait for the night to begin, bless them. Who wait in the hospital room, who wait in the cell, who wait in prayer, bless them. Who wait for news, who wait for the phone call, who wait for a word, who wait for a job, a house, a child, bless them. Who wait for one who will come home, who wait for one who will not come home, bless them. Who wait with fear, who wait with joy, who wait with peace, who wait with rage, who wait for the end, who wait for the beginning, who wait alone, who wait together, bless them. Who wait without knowing what they wait for or why, bless them. Who wait when they should not wait, who wait when they should be in motion, who wait when they need to rise, who wait when they need to set out, bless them. Who wait for the end of waiting, who wait for the fullness of time, who wait emptied and open and ready, who wait for you. Oh, bless.
The Big Umbrella by Amy June Bates and Juniper Bates. By the front door, there is an umbrella. It is big. It is a big, friendly umbrella. It likes to help. It likes to spread its arm wide. It loves to give shelter. It loves to gather people in. It doesn't matter if you're really tall or hairy or even plaid. It doesn't matter how many legs you have. Some people worry that there won't be enough room under the big umbrella. But the amazing thing is this. There is always room. The end.
In a moment, please join the choir in singing Spirit of Life. After Spirit of Life, there'll be a time of silence, followed by a prayer, and then joys and concerns led by Jude.
Spirit of life.
Spirit of life, God of many names, source of love, we bear witness this hour to the many hungers of the world, our neighbors, both near and far, who are desperate in need of life-sustaining food and water. We are humbled before our relative plenty, where others are in such need. Stoke in us a passion for healing this pain. Help us to find new ways to change the small things we can in our own lives, so that the lives of others may be improved. At this national time of Thanksgiving, we recognize that in some ways, our abundance comes at the price of others. May the politics of our nation move away from reactive military action and toward proactive international aid. May we win the hearts of the world through medicine and education, and the hearts of our streets through community investment and workforce development. We know that hunger comes in other clothes. The desire for more, the quest for power, a sense of isolation. Mother of grace, ease the pain of discord in our hearts. Let us be satisfied with a warm home where we have it. Teach us to not seek to rule those around us, in name or in deed, and remind us that there are ever hands reaching toward us, waiting for us to reach back. We are never alone. We hold in our hearts this hour Christine Pisani, who is entering home hospice care due to a sudden third bout with cancer. She welcomes calls and cards, and her contact information is in the directory. We mourn with Jennifer Hildreth, whose mother, Patsy, died suddenly at the age of 80 this week. The family expects to hold a small private funeral. And fellowshippers are invited to send cards to her daughter, Nina, age 9. If you could include either a photo or some marker of how you know Nina, that would be appreciated. And also, please print your words. She doesn't read cursive yet. And we grieve the sudden death of Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson. Some of you knew her as the minister at our congregation in Garden City, two congregations over. Some of you knew her as a frequent guest in our pulpit. Successive boards of ours and our committees on ministries have benefited from her mentoring over the years. She was a frequent workshop leader, retreat leader for our fellowship. And for those of us who attended our district, our cluster, and our regional gatherings, she was a central leader and teacher and force. She also gave the prayer at my installation here in the fellowship 7 years ago. There's no word yet of a memorial. If any of you need to reach out, please reach out to me. My email is minister@uufh.org, and I would be glad to talk with you. May her family know the love and support of so many people right now. Amen and blessed be. We now invite the gathering to lift up the names of those we wish to hold in all our hearts this hour. Please feel free to write in the chat. Lorraine and Tony, Daniel, David, the Kellogg family, Christine, Tom Snell, Jeff and Jessica, Gina, Lorraine and Vicky, Naomi, Janice, Lena, Jova, Simone, Christine, Harvey Rosenfit. Thank you for the care by lifting up my name too. Christine, Eva, Lenny, Connie, Rose, again, Janice, and all the beloveds of Hope, Josephine, Jill, Vince, Janie, Tom, Christine, Nina and family, Jim Ammerman's cousin, Drury, Rob, Reville, Don and Sue, Jen, Alice and Dick Richardson, June. For all these names spoken aloud, and for all those that are written silently on the tablets of our hearts, we pray.
Beautiful choir. Thank you very much. This month's split plate is the Unitarian Universalist Association Office at the United Nations, a non-governmental organization in association with the UN Department of Global Communications and in consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council. The UUA office at the UN represents the UUA and the Canadian Unitarian Council at the United Nations, where we promote the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, as reflected in the United Nations Charter. Through targeted education, advocacy, and outreach, we engage Unitarian Universalists in support of international cooperation and the work of the UN. You can send a check to the office or donate through the website as seen on your screen. You can also donate through the Give Plus Church app, which can be found on the App Store or Google Play. Please give generously.
This is our reading for today. It's from the book Spilling the Light by Reverend Teresa Inés Soto. It's called Everything is Still on Fire. Everything is still on fire, despite your best efforts. In addition to living, it is clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth in the fact that everything is not all your fault. I am sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of not my problem blow, and the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You, in community, have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and to the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish, and where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble than steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the largest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. Everything is still on fire, with thanks to Rihanna. Whew, those are some powerful words by the Reverend Soto. You are here to put out the ravenous flames of the world. Enough is enough. I don't know about you, but I find those words to be both inspiring and a little intimidating sometimes. And so they should be. I thank you for the invitation to be part of your speaker series for the proposed 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism. I'm excited by the work that your congregation is doing in faith formation as it looks at adopting the 8th principle for itself. And as we journey together this morning, we will explore the accountability portion of the 8th principle. So the 8th principle has like some big sections of it, right? And so what we're going to explore a little bit together today is the part that that talks about journeying towards spiritual wholeness, not the journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions, but the part that says that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. But the first thing I want to do is to examine the lead intro to all of those words, which is actually the introduction to all of the current 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. A lot of times we focus on the principles, but we don't focus on the introduction or the affirmation that leads into the principles. And so I want to make sure that we focus on that for a second. So the intro says, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote. And then it's, the affirm and promote. The first principle, the second principle, the third principle, we go through all the principles. But each time we're talking about the principles, we need to be saying in our minds, we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote. Because what many people don't know or they forget is that the full name of the UUA is actually the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Because we shorten it to UUA, we forget that of congregations part, which is in some ways the most important part. It's that very association which in religious terms we name as covenanting between congregations, that serves to make us that very tool that Reverend Soto names as community. For without our covenant, we would be lost in a desert of individuality. Without community, there is no hope of taking on the work of accountably dismantling racism. It is the work of building and sustaining community that is at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. So some of our earliest theology work and theologians address the idea of covenant. In our current context in Unitarian Universalism, a lot of times we think about covenant as something that the church makes between itself. Sometimes churches spend a lot of time writing their covenant, updating their covenant, making sure that folks understand who are joining that community, what that covenant means, what it means to the community, the ways in which you can be out of covenant and come back into covenant with each other. But one of the things we don't do so much of is we don't talk about the covenant between our congregations as Unitarian Universalists. And that covenant is, like I said, at the heart of us, is part of what is at the heart of us as Unitarian Universalists. Because that covenant is what helps keep us in balance with each other. That covenant is what allows me to reach out to you all and say, can you think about this? Can you think about whatever it is we've come together to discuss? It's what allows you all to come together, to have the group coming here today from Staten Island to worship and pray together, but then also to take that next step to say, what is it that we need to be working on with each other? What is it that we need to be accountably dismantling together? And how do we hold each other accountable for that dismantling? How do we say, hey, congregation over there, that thing that you're doing, I'm not so sure that that is in covenant with Unitarian Universalism. Can we have a conversation? Can we have a curiosity about what we're doing? That is just as much part of our covenant in Unitarian Universalism as it is to be able to say to the person in the next pew, hey, you know what? I'm not so sure that that thing that you said was in covenant. Can we have a conversation? So it's really important that we think about this not just internally, but externally to our congregations. Because somehow, unfortunately, somewhere along the way, that view of Unitarian Universalist community became a bit insular. And it's a contradiction in phrases to be insular about community. But somehow we as UUs have managed to do it. We've taken our first principle and said the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and we've taken that to mean that individuality is our highest calling. But we forget that affirmation, we, the member congregations, are the ones that are affirming that worth and dignity. We forget that the faith that we forge as community is our highest calling. And so what does it mean to build community? So if our Unitarian Universalist principles point us towards the why of our faith, we are as fortunate that our Unitarian Universalist sources point us to the how of our faith. So for instance, as we seek to know more about building accountable community, we can look towards one of our sources, the Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. That is one of our principal sources, the Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. So what would those teachings say to us about community? In the Bible, in the book of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 25 through 28, it says, "But Jesus called them unto him and said, Ye know that the princes of the Gentiles exercise dominion over them, and they are great to exercise authority upon them. But it shall not be so among you. But whosoever will be great among you, let him be your minister. And whosoever will be chief among you, let them be your servant. For even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to be a minister and to give his life as ransom for many." whatever your thoughts are about the Bible and about Christianity, there are wisdom to be learned and nuggets of truth and faith that we can share with each other through all of the sources of Unitarian Universalism. These particular verses help us shape what it means to be an accountable community as we seek to dismantle racism both within ourselves and our institutions. They're a kind of working model for how we position ourselves in humility and servant leadership. Often folks think of servant leadership as, well, leadership, right? It's the word is right in there in the phrase, leadership. But how can we go out into our communities as Unitarian Universalists and show others the good news of anti-racism, anti-oppression, and multiculturalism? That's what we think about as leadership. How can we get out there and tell people we've got good news and we want to share that with you? So I would say, but in fact, it's actually good servant leadership. Good servant leadership can also be followership. We can go out into our communities and expect not to be the leaders, but the followers. We can expect that being a servant is something that might feel different for a community which has viewed itself as leaders. But in true servant leadership, it is the servant part that is perhaps most the important. As you heard in the biblical text, whoever will be chief, let him be your servant. So building accountable relationship means coming with humility to others with a lived experience that we may not have. It means we will have great contributions to make if we can only get out of our own way and build that community. And building community can be difficult. It can mean taking direction that we don't always understand because it hasn't been our lived experience. It can feel helpless and confusing. Our Unitarian Universalist ministers and religious professionals trained for many years to be able to be called as servant leaders. We study, we talk, we discuss, we argue, we cry, we rage while we find our calling. We actively seek that learning that can feel helpless and confusing. We learn when we have to suppress our own needs in order to care for our community. And we learn when we need to attend to our own needs in order to care for our own community. But the main thing I want to communicate is that we train for years, and that training never ends. It's never over. We're never done learning. As a religious educator, that is like one of my favorite parts of being a religious professional, is that the learning has become my own path to spiritual and ministerial formation. But the point is that we're not born with this learning, right? We don't just learn it from books. We learn it from feelings born of experiences of getting it right and getting it wrong. We learn by being servants, as followers, and as leaders. As your community explores its accountable relationships, I encourage you all to examine specifically those moments when it feels helpless or confusing. Moments of discomfort tell us something about ourselves. If we only allow our bodies to pause and examine the discomfort, those are the moments of accountability. To sit in discomfort, maybe it affects you. Mine affects me here. Some people, it might be the back of your neck, the top of your head. You might feel it in your hands and your butt and your knees, like wherever it is that when you feel discomfort, you know that something is wrong. Like that is the moment to sit in that discomfort and maybe suppress our own immediate needs in pursuit of learning something about another's. Now, whenever I say that, I give this disclaimer because there are lots of us who are subjected to oppression and to a bringing up which tells us that we have to suppress our needs, that our needs are not as important as others. This happens a lot of time to women and to people from marginalized communities. I am not telling you to suppress those needs. Those needs are your God-given right to be able to be seen and heard. And I would never ask you to suppress that. But what I am saying is when you're in an accountable relationship, sometimes you need to sit with that discomfort for a moment or two or a week or a year, because it is in that learning. It is in that learning and that faith formation as Unitarian Universalists when we find our servant leadership by following. Reverend Soto says, you are here to put out those ravenous flames of the world. Enough is enough. It is everyone's responsibility, and it is ours. We can try to avoid the discomfort of that, or we can face it head on, knowing that we do it with each other in this community, in this time, in solidarity with communities whose lived experience is key to dismantling racism and oppression. May we all work for that together. May it be so. Amen. I treasure my time that you all have shared with me today, this morning, to be with you all. I look forward to being with you. And I am especially joyful for the fellowship and friendship of the Schechter family, who is now going to extinguish our chalice for us. And I see that they are working on that. So that's fine. That happens, right? Whenever we're together, these things happen. So we will, in our minds, hold that family together. We will hold each other together in the spirit of life and love as we go out from this time that we've shared. We know that there are joys and sorrows that need to be held in our lives until we can be together again. And we encourage that spirit of life and love to be with us, but to also move us to act, move us to be with each other, move us to know each other so that we can care for each other and our community. Go in peace.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day. Enjoy your leftover turkey.